Hey.
Hola.
Hola indeed. Why have you got all Spanish on me?
I always like hola. I love hola. I don't know why I just do. I think it's because of that ridiculous magazine, Hello, began life as hola, or indeed is hola in Spain.
Yeah, and it's a bit light-hearted and a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Frothy.
I just think when you hear, well, I know this, I don't think, I know. Some words in my life, they just stick, and hola is one of them.
A bit like I always say, right up your brew now, which I've called...
Exactly, yeah.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
It's a brand new day. Gotta take it on my way. Gotta take it on my way.
Good. So tell me about your week then.
Well, two things. This morning, I did one of my 0800 calls, as I call them, early in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I nearly missed it because it's the last Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning of the year. It's dark. It's darker than I thought it was, if you know what I mean, because I'm not normally up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the night before those, I always get, not anxious, that's the wrong word, but it's like, oh, I better go to bed slightly earlier because I've got to get up at least an hour or two early tomorrow morning. Will I remember, blah, blah, blah. And yesterday I had the place cleaned, as you know.
Yeah.
And my cleaning lady found underneath the sofa bed something that I've been looking for clearly since before the clocks went back, which is my little alarm clock. I don't know about you, but I don't use an alarm clock to wake up, do you?
Well, not now, I'm in Greece, no, but I did in England.
No, I've never used one for years. Anyway, I like to know what time it is, even though I'm not using it in that capacity.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to do that for several weeks because it's been under the bed in a place where I couldn't find it. She found it. And I looked at it this morning and I went, holy shit. Because, of course, it's an hour different. And I thought, oh my God, I've missed the call. I went into a slight panic. And then I looked at my iPad and I realised it was only 10 to 7, which was a bad thing. So I thought, oh, I can go back to bed for about an hour. And then, of course, about 7:45, I woke up. Same thing, an hour later. Holy shit, I'm not ready.
Oh God, it all sounds very stressful.
It's because it's we're coming up to, as I said to them, we're coming up to the 21st of December, which is, I never remember what it is. It's the shortest day, but I always call it the longest day because it feels like the longest day to me because it's so dark for so long. And basically it's darker than I thought at 8 o'clock in the morning, is the point of this ramble. But this isn't the story I wanted to tell you in this section. The story I wanted to tell you is called Paracetamol Gate. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go on then.
So last Wednesday after we'd spoken, that night when I went to bed, I woke up after an hour or two and I thought, well, I had a headache and I couldn't work out whether I got an earache or a toothache. It was in the left side of my head. It could have been a tooth on my upper jaw or it could have been in my ear. And I got out of bed and I had a paracetamol and I went back to bed and that was fine. So I don't know if you know this about paracetamol, but I read this online in the last week, is that you can take 8 of those a day, every day for the rest of your life and never do you any harm at all. And I don't really, normally I would have a pint of water for a headache. I wouldn't rely on a painkiller. Anyway, this was quite bad and it was the middle of the night, no time to drink water. So I had one, went back to sleep, that was fine. Next night, much, much, much worse, agonising pain. And the first paracetamol didn't do it, and the second paracetamol didn't do it. And
you know you're supposed to take 2 together, don't you?
I do, but I don't normally need to. That's the point of the story.
Wow.
So I had one at about 5 o'clock, and I had one about 9 o'clock, and at about 11 o'clock, which was too soon for me because it was only an hour or so after I'd had the other one, I had another one. So I'd had 3 in short order, and this before I read the story about you can have 8 of them a day and that you're all right. Immediately, weird things started happening to me and I started to panic slightly in the middle of the night. Cut a long story short, didn't get any sleep that night. they may be very dehydrated, so I was drinking a lot of water. I know precisely how much water I drank. It was half of a litre and a half, which is 75 centilitres, which is a wine bottle's worth, which meant I had to go for a wee all night long. Now, normally I go for a wee in the middle of the night, once, possibly twice, maybe sometimes 3 times. This was 8 or 10 times. I completely lost touch with how many times I went. Didn't sleep at all. Woke up in the morning, had a coaching call, had to cancel it, went back to bed for most of the day, and did manage to go to the pharmacist, who sold me something called Oragel, which you put on your tooth, and double strength, hang on a minute, reaching for them now, Nurofen Plus, which has written on the packet, can cause addiction for 3 days use only. And I thought, oh, yum, have a couple of those. So at some point, maybe 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, I put a dab of the gel on my tooth. I had 2 of these. Cut long story short, haven't had to take any painkillers or had any recurrence of said event since. But in all of the drinking of water and weeing, I lost 8 pounds in weight.
You know,
this is called paracetamol gate. It's the funniest thing. Well, it actually wasn't funny on Thursday or Friday, but it's the funniest thing that's happened to me this week.
Well, you know, when you go to the doctor for back pain, you wouldn't because you don't go to the doctor, but if you ever go to the doctor for back pain, they will tell you to take 2 Nurofen and 2 paracetamol at the same time, because they work in different ways on different parts of your body, and they have
vaguely I knew that.
Yeah, they have a synergistic effect. So yeah, I mean, I never hesitate to take painkillers. I can't bear being in pain. It sounds like you've got something wrong with your tooth, Judith.
How much wrong can I have with my tooth if it's fixed at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon by 1 dab of Oragel and 2 codeine?
Well, it comes and goes, tooth pain.
No, this doesn't come and go. I fixed it. It's gone. But it's brilliant to know that the fix was... I rang the chemist first and I was feeling so bad that I couldn't drive down there on spec to see if he had the Oragel in stock. The last thing I wanted was to rock up at the chemist, park the car, get out of the car, stagger into the shop and discover they hadn't got it, and then have to chase it all around South London. But he had got it, and it was brilliant. I mean, I have had a small issue with Nurofen, over-the-counter painkillers before, actually. I remember when I first got my poorly knees, and the pain was quite bad, and I used to have over-the-counter things for it then. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed in Canary Wharf, and when you know you've gone over into the addict space is when you don't have one when you're in pain, you have one so that you don't get pain. Yeah. And I sat on the edge of my bed and I had that aha moment, and I thought, oh my God, I'm Robbie Williams, because you know how these people, you know how celebrities get addicted to over-the-counter painkillers. I suppose that's why I use them so judiciously, because I don't want to end up addicted to them. But at the same time, there's a frisson of excitement when I hold the pack in my hand and it goes, can cause addiction. It's like
you are believing
living on the edge, isn't it, Nicola? It's living on the edge.
Yeah, it's not what I call living on the edge.
Yeah, that's paracetamol gates. That's my story for the week. One thing about my Tell me about yours.
Well, let me just first tell you my preferred painkiller.
Yes.
I'll always do a couple of Nurofen first for everything, apart from a hangover when it's got to be paracetamol. But Nurofen will work as well in an emergency.
Okay.
Is that something to do with paracetamol bringing your temperature down and making your brain shrink? So
I don't know, but these are the dogs, these ones. Ibuprofen and codeine they've got in them. Oh, love them.
Okay, so we've had a quietish week. Well, I say that. It was quite busy yesterday, but one thing and another. We had to go and get water because water is obviously on tap in the house, but nobody drinks it. They all go and get their water from these little taps around the standpipes, I think they're called, where the water comes off the mountains and comes down clear as Evian could be. And it's free, so you all just go and fill your bottles of water up. So that's a bit of a mission without a car. And then we went to the village because we had to take our rubbish bags to the village rubbish tip thing, because there's no rubbish collection here, of course. And obviously I won't go into too much detail, but you're filling up your bins quite quickly with all sorts of things, and they have to be emptied regularly or you get flies. So off we trotted with our bags of rubbish, and then we had to stop and have a coffee with Bailey's because it was my name day, which, a new celebration day I've only just discovered, so we have to, make most of that.
Hang on a minute, 6th of December, is it the same date every year, your name day?
Yes, it is, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Nicholas's day. So anyone, Nicola, Nikos with a K, Nicholas, everyone was celebrating their name day yesterday, so there's lots of, good wishes and things, which was nice. And St. Nicholas was a 4th century monk. I think he was Greek, but he was living in Turkey, and he did so many miracles. He was called Nicholas the Miracle Worker.
Isn't old Saint Nick, isn't he Santa Claus?
I don't know.
I think he might be. We'll look that up later. I'll come back with the answer to that next week for the Christmas episode.
And then we were walking back from, then we had to go to Katerina's because Sarah had run out of food. And then we were walking back from Katerina's, having topped 6,000 steps. So I was feeling pretty pleased with myself. And Ari from the Pefco Taverna came up the road in his car and said, "Get in, your wood's arriving." So we had to go up the road for the pickup truck of wood to arrive, and of course the neighbour's car was parked in his drive, and the ideal thing would have been for the pickup to go up the neighbour's drive, and we could have just hurled the rock, the logs over the wall into our garden. But no, his car was in the way, so it all had to be transported manually. But the great excitement was we found a little scorpion underneath it. Luckily I had gloves on. And that was that. No, the most exciting thing that's happened to me this week is we've made a new friend. And her name is Stephanie. And she was introduced to us as an author and podcaster. But
I saw you saying that.
Well, Judith, I've managed to keep stum on the most exciting thing of all, which is that I think it's her son. He is one of the 2 people who run the second most successful rugby podcast in the UK, called the Egg Chasers podcast.
Ooh.
And I thought there might be some synergy with is it your brother that does something?
Yes.
So they're nice boys, and she looks after them. And I just looked it up on the top, rugby podcasts of 2016. They're number 2, Egg Chasers.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll be able to do on Christmas Day. I'll be able to impress the men in my family with the fact that I know, what's that thing called, the Kevin Bacon game? 6
degrees of separation.
6 degrees. I'll be able to impress them by the fact that I know through you, the guys behind the Egg Chasers. And
well, they're just starting to get.
Don't imagine that my brother knows what a podcast is, but I'll ask him if he'd like to be on the podcast.
It's like a radio show.
Well, I know exactly. I know what it is. Yes. This is our 109th episode, for heaven's sake. You are a podcast. And let me tell you what your stories of your week are making me grateful for. I'm grateful for when I turn on the taps, water comes out, and that our Ocado deliver the rest. I'm grateful that today is Wednesday bin men, and the men will be round tomorrow to collect my rubbish. I'm grateful that when I crank up this button in arm's reach of my desk, the central heating goes up and I don't have to fetch my own wood. But the podcasting bit and the coffee with Bailey's on your name day bit is fab.
Yeah, well, something very odd just happened here. Talking about being grateful for things happening. I'm experiencing things happening that I'm not expecting, i.e., my phone just rang. I think it's a Skype call, and I suspect it's Facebook Help, which obviously they always ring you when you're doing something else. But my Fitbit started alerting me that there's a phone call coming through.
Oh, how weird. I mean, that's too much information, isn't it? TMI.
It started last night. My Fitbit started buzzing, and it said Phoebe Soromekan's calling. And I'm like, why would my Fitbit be telling me?
Well, because your Fitbit and your phone are connected, aren't they? Because that's the way you measure things.
I don't know, it's all a bloody together. Anyway, let's crack on with what's fueled your fire.
Yeah, you go first, because mine's a bit of a strange one.
Okay. It's going to be one of those surreal weeks.
Well, you do ask me sometimes if I could be more eccentric. Today I'm going to be it, okay?
I think we're both going for the prize this week, aren't we? Okay, what's fueled my fire? I'm writing a blog series about creating and launching a new mentoring program. I suddenly thought to myself, I've got no reason to do this, unless apart from the fact I want to. And a good way to keep myself accountable, build a little buzz, hopefully, would be to document my process, because I've been thinking a lot about documentation recently. I get so many people contacting me. I think it's because I've got that blog post that comes up number 1 if you put in 6-figure mentors. And those people are very newbie, and the thing I get all sorts of stories from all around the world about why that I should mentor them for free, coach them, etc., etc. And they always tell me their stories, and they all say, where should I start? And I say, well, if you don't know what you want to do, and you don't know what a business model is, and you haven't got a tribe and all that stuff, then just start by documenting your search. Get a blog going on something and document your search to find out what you should be doing. Just start writing, what you do every day. And there's two things here. One is you're building a tribe by doing that, because people who are a little bit behind you will find you. And the second thing is that you're keeping yourself accountable to taking action every day. And yet, one of the days this week, I didn't get a chance to do anything. I think it was Monday. I think I had a hangover. Yes, I did, because we went out with Stephanie and we all drank far too much rosé. So I didn't feel brilliant the next morning. And I had the job I had to finish off, which I started on Sunday, was my accounts. And only me could do them, because it was a change of a limited company, halfway between 2 financial years, and only I knew what I'd spent everything on. So it would have been too painful to outsource it. So I spent Monday doing that, which meant I didn't write the blog post. And I suddenly realised in 5 PM I hadn't done it. And I thought, well, I have actually done things to move my business forward, but it didn't feel like I had unless I documented it. So I knocked out a quick blog post, which was great because it kept me going, almost on track. So the blog series is really fueling my fire, because it's not just helping me put my thoughts in order about how you would do this thing from start to finish, but it's making me move my business forward one step at a time every day.
Very good.
Yeah.
Write this down. One step at a time. Right. I'm going to read you a list of words, because I invented a game yesterday. Have you ever heard of that game called Word Association Football? You know how to play that?
Anything with the word football in is anathema to me.
Well, this isn't about football. Association football is an expression. So word association is an expression. Association football is an expression. And the point of the game is I say a word. Let's try it now. Squirrel. And you tell me a word. You don't have to explain it. It doesn't have to be logical. That the word squirrel brings up for you.
Park.
Fine. Now, it goes on like that. So I decided to do it with my clients yesterday. So I'm going to read you a list of 36 words, because what I did was I went down and I wrote a list of all of them.
We just lost all our listeners.
Why? Well, because first of all, I thought that just now, and then I thought, well, actually, she's used a lot more than 36 words to describe her blog series documenting.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so actually, this could be quicker than what you've just said, if you stop interrupting me. So I wrote a list of all of their names, and then I wrote the first word that came to mind. And so I'm going to read you a list of words about self-employed people. And I've written down here, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. And then I've invited them in my newsletter this week to write in if they recognise themselves. And if they're not already a client, to choose the words that they would choose to describe themselves. And I'm not going to tell them whether they get the answers right or not. So here are the words. Ready?
Okay.
Arty, wordy, ambitious, visible, creative, decisive, busy, solid, brainy, nomad, impatient, poorly, resting, sociable, private, steady, confused, time poor, able, diamond, starry, spooky, talented, light-hearted, cheeky, adventurer, businesslike, diligent, overwhelmed, lovely, alchemist, marketer, publisher, reinventor, grafter, and sensitive.
Okay. Did you come up with all those words?
Yes. They were the first word I came up with when I'd written their name down.
Oh, I see. So you went through your list of clients and you came up with one word that you associated with each of them.
Yes. Did I not explain that clearly about 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, you might have done, but I did. I'm not good at taking stuff in when I'm listening to it.
Yes. Okay. That's exactly what I did. It's client association football is this
Okay.
game. I'm going to put it in my newsletter this week, but I just thought there were a lot of words that describe, there are a lot of words that describe my clients, one word each. Actually, no, I cheated. Before them, I gave them 2.
Okay, so now, and then you've invited anyone who's not a client to look
Well, I mean, now you can choose the words. Which one of those words? So I've said, have a go, write in and let me know. This time, if you're not a client, this time next year, which of those words would you like to describe yourself? And they can pick more than one, obviously. And the existing clients, I've said, if you recognise yourself, and I know they won't pick the ones I've chosen, they'll see themselves in another light. And actually, I'm not going to tell them whether they get themselves right or wrong.
Interesting.
Because I don't want the one who I think of as confused as thinking of herself as confused.
No, you'd rather she was...
I'd rather she picked able.
Yeah.
Able, talented and light-hearted.
Yeah, fascinating. It's amazing where the ideas come from for blog posts and newsletters, isn't it?
I don't know where that idea came from. It's just a fun game. I like games.
Yeah.
I actually don't like games as well. That's a double-edged sword. When somebody says, let's play a game, I normally groan, but there's a word game, I suppose. That's an exception, isn't it?
Yeah, you like a nice word.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear about 18 proven ways to enjoy a successful location-independent business and the freedom to live wherever you like? Own It The Summit is a pack of 18 dynamite interview recordings with globally successful entrepreneurs, sharing their secrets of the real laptop lifestyle. We handpicked each of these people to interview to show you how to set yourself free to design your ideal lifestyle, whether working from home or travelling the world, while running a successful virtual business that you absolutely love. If you're bored sick of working for someone else, trading time for money, or of being a business owner living in one place, sick of the terrible weather and desperate to travel and have adventures, Own It The Summit is for you. These 18 global entrepreneurs share their stories. You can listen and enjoy their tales of where they started, how they founded and grew their businesses, the tools and techniques they use to work on the go, and what living and working in total virtual freedom really looks and feels like. By the time you've listened to these dynamite interviews, you'll be so inspired that you'll want to set up your own virtual business and be researching how to live and work on the go. But Judith and I pulled out all the stops to find the people we both know to be living an exceptional life, running exceptional businesses. Participating in this summit was directly responsible for me deciding to up sticks and go and live in Greece. And Judith was already in preparation to go and live in the Caribbean. With that in mind, you can imagine we drilled down for the nitty-gritty answers to the questions you might have about living and working abroad. After the event, testimonials poured in, and everyone seemed to find something different in each speaker to really enjoy. Just one of the testimonials read, "I've never been online that long, 2 days in a row, my new record for studying online." That was Eve. Claire said it was great content. Her family was getting cross with her huddled in her study. So great to be reminded of all the supportive tools out there for digital nomads. Love your speakers. Just visit ownitthesummit.com and get your hands on these life-changing recordings today. Right, so client challenge of the week then.
This is the one that you promised me last night you'd let me know about, but then didn't.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Oh, what? Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. You were scrolling the wrong way on
Well,
that.
I've sent it to someone else then.
There you
I
have.
took all the names and identifying things out. Right, in that case, I'm going to just 1 second, caller, dig it out.
I think I sent a message saying, did you do this or not? Perhaps I didn't. Oh, there you go. Oh my God, it's gone to she.
No, it's all right. It's right. So she shall remain nameless. It's Moses, but not one of our clients. The question I have for the Own It podcast is: I have 2 new products, not yet with testimonials. What are your recommendations to get more social proof? One is aimed at helping businesses to sell to women, called 7 Keys to Selling to Women, to get her sold on you. And the other is called Return on Connection. I quite like the sound of the second one. Aimed at content marketers to help them to create and develop connection with their content to get a return on connection. As content without connection is like tea without cake. Blah, 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 blah. Any input on your podcast would be lovely. I have to catch up. I'm a bit...
Pick one. Stop trying to be everything to everybody. Go back up to the top. I've got 2 new products. Is that what it said?
Yeah.
Up. I want to see the very first sentence.
Okay.
I have 2 new products. Oh, don't launch them both simultaneously. Pick one, get known for something. Well, let's address the main question.
Yeah.
What's your recommendations to get more social proof if you haven't got testimonials? You go first.
Let's come back to that.
Oh, that's the question.
Yeah, because I've got a bit of feedback about the 2 products. I don't like things that are aimed at specifically women. I don't like the idea of selling to women as if it was different to selling to a man. I think you're selling to a person, and the reason you're selling to a person is because you can help those people with your unique offering. And I definitely don't like this whole thing of to get her sold on you. It sounds like some dodgy dating thing to me. and I'm not massively keen on the idea.
Darling, she hasn't asked us to pass feedback on her ideas. And she is very much a person who's focused at women.
I know, but I'm just giving my opinion anyway because it has been asked for.
No, not in that regard, it hasn't.
Well, I need, I'm just giving my feedback anyway.
Gratuitously.
The idea, however, of the return on connection product aimed at content marketers, and I'll tell you why. Because content marketing is such a new thing. It's been going around for ages, and we've done it for years and years and years and years. But there is a real surge of interest in things.
Right, go down. I'm really the cake lady specialising in female-friendly cake. Now, you see, there you go. Her market is very much targeted at women, and she does focus herself very much on being a woman in a woman's world.
And so is this product for women to sell to women? Or is it, it's a rhetorical question because we don't...
Aimed at content marketers to help them create and develop connection with their followers to get a return on content without connections like tea without cake. And I'm really the cake lady specialising in female-friendly cake. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I would definitely go with I like the return on connection. It's like return on digital. It's like, it implies a more business-like thing. And it's very hot topic at the moment. And I think you could definitely have a good base of selling to social media managers, marketing managers in corporates where the product or service is aimed at women.
I don't think that's her market, by the way. She's independent like us through and through.
All right. So she'd be looking to sell her content, return on content.
To individuals who struggle to come up with,
Okay.
Not necessarily solopreneurs. I don't think, you see, if A is solopreneurs and Z is corporates, there's B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all in between. It isn't either, it's not zero or hero, one or the other. It's not a land of extremes. Solopreneurs won't be able to afford her. They'll have to find ways to do it themselves. But people in between who aren't necessarily corporates, all the way up, SMEs, which goes quite big, actually, will be able to afford her.
Yes, if it's a training course, yes.
Well,
I suppose the reason I think of it like that in such clear-cut terms is because I think of if you're going to launch a new product, you need to get a funnel going where you're going to be sending, you're going to pay for ads, send traffic, they're going to opt in, then you're going to try and sell them something, you're going to try and get a return on your advertising spend quite early on. And in order to do that with a small budget, you need to be very focused about who you're selling to.
Yes, I don't think this is what she's talking about. She's talking about connection. Let's go back up to the top, to the actual question.
Yeah.
If you haven't got testimonials, what would you do what are our recommendations to get more social proof?
Well, I think you'd have to take on a beta testing group of people.
You would. You'd have to have a trial. You'd have to have an R&D team, exactly. You'd have to have a trial, and I would offer that at a bargain price in return for testimonials.
So you wouldn't offer it for free, you'd offer it at a bargain price?
For a pilot, it doesn't need to be for free. People don't turn up for stuff that's free.
That's very true.
They don't engage with stuff that's free. The thing that we did recently with Jacqueline, her manifestation game was 17 quid. And people, even at that level, people take it more seriously than if it's free. I've got to get my money's worth at some point. So whatever her eventual price point is for this, I give them 50 or 60% off in return for A, B, and C, full attendance, something else, and a testimonial at the end.
Yeah, I mean, they're nearly at the end of this this course I've been doing, and they are inviting people. In fact, they're making it very easy for us to give them testimonials because they're sending us a list of 4 or 5 questions, and all we have to do is reply to them. And if we want to be on the testimonial on the sales page, supply a picture. So that's quite good, really. Yeah, I mean, you've got the only way to get testimonials is to get people going through the program
to have an experience of it. Yes.
Yeah, totally, and. Yeah, I totally agree with Judith as well about pick one of those and focus on them and get it up and running and making a profit before you even think about the other.
Now, interestingly, this woman, she has 2 at least niches already. I'm not going to name them.
Yeah.
But any one of these 2 ideas here could also be a niche, which means adding a 3rd and 4th niche to her. She's a creator, rampant creator.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a good thing. Do you see what creators do is this endless cycle of a new idea that excites us. That doesn't give our clients, our paying clients, a chance to catch up with us.
I totally, I agree, and it's something, you know, I battle with all my life. I mean, I was watching something, a Casey Neistat video, one of the very few I haven't seen already, just as he stops producing them. And it was all about focus, and he really did, you know, spent 10 minutes talking about it, how much more powerful you are if you focus on one thing and solve all the problems towards being successful with that one thing, rather than sitting about.
And do you know what? I don't see it. Margaret Collins, when we worked with her, she came up with this idea of serial focus. It doesn't exclude all your other ideas. It just means you're not running all the lanes in the egg and spoon race simultaneously. And what it does mean is if you make a success of that first niche, you can take us with you wherever you want to go next. But you can't easily achieve what you're looking for as a creative entrepreneur, money and success, if you insist on running in all of those lanes in the race. Pick one. And go against type here. Pick one and really get known for that. And we'll come with you when you go to the next one and the next one, because we say things like, I love X, I've done everything she's done.
Yeah, and you know, someone who's really struggled with this over the last few weeks, and so, you know, without wanting to sound hypocritical, you know, it took me working through someone else's course to get to the point where I felt certain enough that I was choosing the right thing for me again. Excuse that jet going past. Hold on. There's the Greek Air Force practicing overhead. Everyone thinks it's quiet here, but no. Right, they're going away again now. He used to be the postman. Do you remember? Bless him.
Yes.
Yeah, so you know, I don't want to sound hypocritical, but I do totally agree. I just think that you've got to. It's something about being scared the thing you're doing isn't going to work. That's why entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs try and do more than one thing at once. Oh, that's right. Casey showed this brilliant drawing. No, he couldn't remember where it came from. I think it. Yeah. Anyway, Essentialism by Greg McEwen. That's a great book, by the way. He drew a series of 9 little squares along the bottom of a piece of paper, and then he drew one tall oblong over the far side of the paper, and he said, okay, if you're working on 9 different projects, you know, and you get to first base with all of them, that's as good as it's going to get. But if you concentrate on just one project and put all the energy, all the 9 1 unit bits of energy into one thing that you would have done, you know, you would have done spread out over the other 9 things, you're just going to get so much further. And I thought that was just such a brilliant little drawing.
Yes, and what's his name? Mark Forster.
Yes.
When I went to his class, did the same thing, and I was the only person. He asked us, which is faster, A or B, and I was the only person to ever get the question right ever, which is, you can only do the one. So this thing about multiple launches is just bonkers. If our client is to do a good job of either one of those ideas, it's a full-time job to launch anything, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and especially if you want to make it evergreen, because you have to pay attention. I mean, it's so. I mean, I'm going through the same thing at the moment. I'm putting a process together, which I hope will be evergreen, and that I can just go back and tweak each step of it. But and I was thinking about it, you know, why? Because I've got these ads that are running, and for the first time ever, they're very close to making a profit on a tripwire offer. And I was thinking, why have I never done this before? It's because I've been working on 2 or 3 different things all at once and not been focused enough. And now I'm focused enough, I can sit and quietly think about each stage and make it work and make sure each stage of it's working. There isn't a box I haven't ticked or an email that isn't going out. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
there's another thought here about social proof in the lack of specific testimonials, which is, I think she will have social proof on other things that she's achieved in the last decade. And you can pinch those and generalize them, i.e., you can say, working with so-and-so has helped me this way. You don't need to say, working with so-and-so on her previous project has helped me this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if the outcomes. I mean, every bit of marketing is all about how you feel at the end of it. Do you feel happy? Do you feel fulfilled? Has it achieved a goal of improving your finances or giving you more time or making you feel better about yourself? And those things are sort of universal, aren't they?
And it's a bit like the thing that they do. I always call it the thing they do outside theatres, which is they take the best bits out of the critics and ignore the bad bits. And, you know, you can change You can edit a critic's sentence to take out the nasty words and put in the good words, and you're reporting what they've said. You've just changed the meaning of what they said.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that time when Jill and I got a double-page spread in the Mail on Sunday, and the only thing that could even remotely be spun as positive was because the reporter was, as we always say, very jaundiced and cynical. She said, Jill's passion for her topics or subjects shines through. So, of course, that was straight onto the front page of the website.
Yeah,
the Mail on Sunday says.
Judicious editing, yeah.
So, just come back for a little bit to the thing, I was saying that the reason I used to have more than one thing on the go, and I remember it was the one thing that used to drive Rachel Turner, my first ever coach, bonkers, was that I suppose you're trying to put more than one eggs in one basket, aren't you? So that you don't feel you're going to waste your time focusing on, for a year or so on something that may not ultimately work out.
I know that you believe that, but the reason we do multiple ones is because we're frightened they won't work. Actually, I think this example and many of the examples where we've been involved is what I call idea sex, which is the ideas. Having ideas is so sexy, it keeps you awake at night. In fact, one of my clients at 8 o'clock this morning said exactly that. I was up until 10:30 last night, and then I was awake because I'm having so many exciting ideas. It's such an exciting stage of my business to be at. Yes. For a creator, that beginning, that invention, that pulling it all together is absolutely thrilling and addictive. And many of my clients get trapped there forever.
In the dopamine hit of idea sex.
Well, I occasionally have it myself. I remember the last brilliant idea I had, which was, I had it in the shower in the morning. I actually wanted to stay home that day and work on it rather than go out and meet my commitments. There's nothing like thinking you've hit upon a genius, wonderful idea. And no doubt both of these ideas offered up here have a market. Okay, there's some polishing and knocking off the rough edges and so forth to be done. But doing them both at once is like hobbling yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much guaranteeing that neither will.
Yeah, that's it. Steve Nobel said that to me once. Chase 2 rabbits, catch neither.
Yeah. I've got to say, working with Infusionsoft has calmed me down a little bit now, because there are so many steps to setting up an Infusionsoft campaign, which I do get a lot of pleasure out of, because it's a very methodical kind of work, which I really quite enjoy occasionally. But because it is quite step heavy, it does stop me from going bonkers and going off in various different
reminding you have to do all of those steps for each of the different ideas.
That's right.
Yeah, good on you, Infusionsoft.
Yeah.
You reminded the creative entrepreneur why it's only good to do one of these at a time to each this.
Yeah, and especially if you were paying someone else to do the Infusionsoft bits, you wouldn't be able to afford it.
No, but unless you've been through that process, I think it's deceptive.
Yeah.
How much work involved there is in any project or business. This girl that said she was awake all night, so much to do, very exciting. I said, well, it is when you're in that stage of business where you're doing every single bit of it yourself, which this lady who's corresponding with us is in that place, in the main.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good stuff. So,
I just want to ask a little brainstorm opportunity here before we move on. Are there ways to get social proof?
Well, they say that you either focus on your client's successes or you focus on your own success. So with the Money Gym, for example, what was happening was I worked through it. I was documenting it on my blog, /e-zine, and I was achieving successes myself, even though I hadn't coached anyone else to yet. So when I launched my coaching program, people had been watching me move from A to A.
Oh, which gives me an idea. So this lady, could you flag up that thing again and read me the bit about content? Read me the bit about content down the bottom, the second thing about content. Help them create and develop connections with their content. She could, as social proof, she could use social proof about examples she sees of content that makes connections and how that works in other people's businesses, in public businesses.
Yeah, she could even put something up in one of the groups we're in on Facebook saying, have you got any examples of brilliantly performing content?
Well, I bet she can see them, because that's what she's offering as her expertise. That's probably what provoked her idea. So yes, I would give examples. So it's not, yes, that's social proof of your concept working by observation of other people's businesses where they do it well.
And the other thing is she could while creating her course, she could do what I'm doing, which is to actually do the things that you're going to be recommending that people do in the course.
Yes. And could you copy and paste that to me, please, so I've got it for the show notes? I won't produce it.
Who I sent it to last night.
Yes, that's right. It's worrying, isn't it?
So I took the name out so it would be anonymous, and
okay.
So whoever it was would just be completely confused.
Okay.
One of my children who just ignored me as the bonkers mummy that I am. Getting quite good at that nowadays. Word of the week.
Oh, well done you. Mine's plan. Will you, won't you, how to?
Okay.
It's that time of year when everybody's thinking about planning. And we had quite a debate about it yesterday in one of my groups. Are you a planner? Will you make a plan? Won't you make a plan? If you're going to make a plan, how do you make a plan? So my word is plan. What's yours?
It's team. Because I've been working with two other people on this, the whole tech side of things for the new year. And it's made me do things at times of the day and night I wouldn't normally do them, because if you know that someone in Australia or America is waiting for you to do something before they can do the next bit of their thing, it G's you up quite remarkably, because you don't want to be the reason that they're delayed.
You certainly have to. You certainly learn to think in multiple time zones, don't you?
Yes, yeah, you do.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's mine. I'm quite enjoying that. It's very helpful in moving projects along. If you're not so good at accountability, then working in a team can be very, very crucial.
Okay.
Project updates then.
Wow, there have been quite a lot of new likes this week, haven't there, based on what you said last week?
Yes. The biggest challenge for the listener who doesn't know what we're talking about is how to promote a podcast. We had a bit of money in the kitty from a couple of sales of ownitthesummit.com packages of interviews, and we wanted to use those to the best advantage, and I didn't really know how to do that, mainly because the only thing that we could measure would be something like opt-ins on the website. And traditionally, for a podcast, not many people opt in, really. They go and they listen to the podcast, but they don't really opt into the mailing list. So
we haven't given them a good enough reason to do that, by the way. One of my clients, Susan, that writes podcasts, put a good note about that this week. I'll copy it into you. When we go to our website, we don't have a most wanted action there. Our thing about opting in is down the left-hand side about number 4 and hidden behind another one.
Yes, good point. And so the other thing was, do we send traffic to the Summit website where we might make sales, and there are opt-in calls to action where you can get a copy, one of the interviews, or do we send people to the Own It podcast site? Anyway, I was just didn't know what to do for the best, really. But I settled last week on a two-pronged approach, which was sending traffic to the website and sending traffic to the page likes to get page likes, because you're doing each episode as a rather beautiful note, and I was thinking it'd be great if those notes went to more people, and a good way to get that happening without paying for it is to have more people liking your page. So I very carefully chose some audiences and set the two campaigns up, and we were getting clicks to the website for about £1.50 to £2, which is awfully expensive for just a straight click campaign. Ideally it should be between 50p and £1. But the likes were coming down in cost. Now, bear in mind, when you set up a campaign, it always starts out high, and then as over 2 or 3 days, it gets cheaper and cheaper. So you've got to have a few balls when you're doing these things, because it's a bit scary at first. But our page likes this week are down to between 44p and 51p. So for every £1, we're getting 2 new likes. How effective that is, I don't know. We'll have to review the traction and engagement on your notes. I think that's a good way to measure it.
I also think you need to look at the names of the people who are liking in clearly not first language.
So say that last bit again.
English not first language.
So people are liking ours where their English is not the
You
first.
can tell from their names that English isn't their first language.
Well, this is bloody interesting, because I'm targeting England, Australia, New Zealand, America and Canada.
Well, just have a look at the names of the people who've liked us in the last week. That's what I would recommend.
Well, this is where you get into this conversation about, Facebook sending you junk likes and junk traffic? because I've qualified it with people in those countries who like Gary Vaynerchuk or who like Robert Kiyosaki. And
well, that's two good examples of why I might be being ist. Their names don't sound like English their first language either, Gary Vaynerchuk and Robert Kiyosaki. So we might just be talking absolute rubbish here. But I think what's the value of a like is a bigger question, isn't it? And we'll only see that in the fullness of time.
Yeah, good point. I think we've got to put the thing.
And actually, we don't put any work onto our page. So we've got likers on our page once a week. We publish that the episode is live and the note, but we don't actually check whether people who've liked our page are even listening to the podcast.
Well, there's no way of checking that.
But we could encourage them. We don't actually put any work in on our page.
Well, just the very fact they get notified of a new podcast episode.
Yeah, that's 2 things a week on a page, which we know isn't really going anywhere. You see?
Yeah.
Anyway, so thoughts. I'm not criticising, by the way. I'm
not taking it as such. I'm
observing what's the value of a like if all we do is put 2 pieces of information on our page a week and don't pay to make sure that the people who've liked our page are even seeing those bits of information.
Well, we could boost the notes, that's for sure. But then, you're paying more then.
Yeah. Do we want to boost the note, or do we want to ask them questions, try and engage with them? Again, I think it's pointless on a page if you're not paying. To try and engage with them about whether they're listening. They've liked the page about the podcast. Have they even listened to the podcast?
Well, the ad I'm using to get them to like the page is highlighting this week's episode.
Okay.
So when they click to like the page, they end up on the page where they see, your note about last week's episode.
Yeah.
They click and listen. I mean, I suppose the main thing would be, do our listener figures go up on Libsyn?
Over a period of time, yes.
Over the period of time we've been advertising.
Because I think we've added 100 or so likes in the last week, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So theoretically,
I don't think we'd be able to tell that in Libsyn. If we had 100 more downloads this week, we wouldn't really think that was significant, would we?
Yeah, so 100 in a week's quite significant, actually. But would all those 100 go and have a listen? I don't
think we'd notice. I don't think we'd notice.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's difficult, yeah.
And this is very much relevant for everyone listening, because you've got to have some way of measuring the success of what you're doing on marketing. Didn't you say you've been doing quite a lot of measurement of your marketing activities recently?
Just the amount of time that goes in, and the only measurement you can really do is about the traction of those notes on Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so. On this particular example, but yeah. So yes, you've got to get very clear about what the benefit of what you're doing is and how you're going to measure the success of it or otherwise. There are certain things that I do because I believe they have a branding effect, if you like putting pictures up on Instagram.
Yes.
And then I can obviously see if I get any traffic from Instagram to my website. So there is a sort of slight, what's the word I'm looking for? A slight way of measuring, our input as a return on investment of my time. But I also do believe that there is a branding, there's a use.
I totally agree with you about branding. Although if you go and have a look after this call at the names of the 100 people who've liked our page in the last week, and then ask yourself, is there any branding, could they give a flying hoot about our branding? Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of mismatch. I get branding in a kind of broader sense. And it's something that's got to be done.
It's a tricky one, this, about this English-speaking names and everything, because
I'm not making any assumptions at all. It's just that just do it, and then
I will.
Message me later and
okay.
With any assumptions or anything that observations, anything that occurs to you. I'm not saying by any means they're all foreigners. And actually, we know that our podcast is downloaded in 140 countries or something, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And actually, if you don't speak a foreign language, English is the best one not to speak, because everybody has a bit of a go at it. And some of them could be listening to it in Bora Bora in order to improve their English. You just don't know, do you?
Well, they won't get very far with our colloquial English. Yours is better than mine, I must say. So the other thing about this is sometimes when you do Facebook ads, you look at the names of the people who are opting in, and they're all things like Hotmail and Gmail accounts. And you sort of think, oh my God, I don't know if these are good quality leads or not. But you have to just assume that people are using those accounts perhaps to sign up for things, and perhaps they're not putting in their main emails. In the same way that I just use Nicola at nicolacairncross.com for absolutely everything, knowing that, I've got other email addresses that clients can get me on and things like that. But so you mustn't get despondent. I think the main thing is, do they then move on to the next action? Now, with the podcast, we've got an issue on deciding what that next action is, if it's anything other than, downloading and listening to an episode.
Yeah. And is there a way of contacting those 100 easily and saying, have you listened to our most recent episode?
Well, the only way to do it, you can't do it in bulk, but the only way to do it is to contact them one by one from the page.
Okay.
And so
have a look at the list of names first, and then let's think.
That might be a good experiment, actually.
Well, it might be. It might be. Yes. Yeah.
Time consuming. Gary Vaynerchuk says that's what social media is all about. It's about going deep and individual.
I agree with him. Yeah.
And really connecting. And if you've got nothing else to do that today, then you should be reaching out and connecting with everyone who's followed you on Twitter, everyone who's followed you on Facebook, everyone's followed you on Instagram, and making contact with those people and having a real conversation.
Trying to avoid doing it in a cheesy, automated way.
Well, exactly. That's another thing he says. You can't do it. He does all his own social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the car, on the plane. He spends a lot of time doing it in between things.
Yeah. Okay,
so who or what's impressed Judith?
Well, I did ask you yesterday, are you going to talk about WP Curve or shall I?
Yeah, you go for it first. We both talk about it.
Well, last week's news in this section from you was that Carey Neistat, is that his name?
Casey Neistat.
Casey Neistat had been bought out by CNN.
Yeah.
This week, WP Curve got into bed with GoDaddy.
Do you know, nobody saw that coming. Obviously, they've been working on it since June, according to Dan's blog post on WP Curve, but there was not a hint of anything at all.
Well, you don't want that thing leaking until the deal is done, do you?
No, absolutely not. But, I'm in several of his private groups, and there was not a hint of it. The first thing anyone knew of it was the picture of them all drinking margaritas.
Well, that's deeply professional on his part, and I applaud him for that. And actually, I think it's a nice brand match with GoDaddy, don't you?
Yeah, totally. And just think, let's just think about the implications of this. He started that company in, was it 2013, 2014? And he built it from scratch on his own. Then he brought in Matt, I think his business partner's called Matt, I'm not sure. He brought in Matt because he was told that startups go further with a partnership rather than a solopreneur heading them up. And literally, I got to know him. I read the book at Christmas 2014, 2015, started my business. So tips and leads, and that went for about 2 years. And so really, we're looking at a 3 to 5 year window here to make what must be multi-millions.
Well, he hasn't said, unlike Casey Neistat, he hasn't said he's been bought out by. He's used different language to explain partnering up with or going in with or something like that. And clearly, everybody except him, or at least 2 senior members of his team, are going to, oversee that or go with that or something like that. But he hasn't said, there's been no announcement about money changing hands. We don't know the shape of the deal. I don't know if you do from your insider stuff.
I don't know the shape of the deal, but I can only assume, because people are going to work at GoDaddy, that it must be a buyout of some kind. Whether it's cash or...
Well, but I think, I'm with GoDaddy. I've often thought about being with WP Curve. I think they both add value to each other.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I think that's a great marriage there.
Well, it's like Drip and Lead Pages, isn't it? When Lead Pages bought Drip, which is...
No idea. Don't know about anything about either of those. But I do think that this is a good thing. And there's a rash of it going on at the moment, and I think that's nice.
Yeah.
Was that your one, or have you got something else in this section?
I haven't got anything else. That is the big news of the week, and the fact that Dan is still a very young-looking bloke who doesn't, he's your average guy next door, really. He's obviously brilliant, but he does just look and act like, an ordinary bloke.
Well, I don't think he's very old, Nicola, is he?
No, not at all. No, he's young.
Yeah.
So I just think it is really impressive that and the even better thing about that was that he failed miserably for 8 years. by his own admission, and if you read his book, he was having a really tough time.
He was trying. He was trying in those 8 years, and he didn't give up. What I'd like you to find out, please, is did he approach GoDaddy or did they approach him?
I don't know is the answer, so we'll have to. Yeah,
Find out. Yeah, you're an insider. Though. See if you can find out which way it went.
Yeah, okay, we'll do. But good news all round. We love to hear of people doing well, don't we, Judith, on this podcast?
We do indeed. Yes, we do.
Because it's very inspirational for
And
everyone.
also, you, as everybody knows that listens regularly, you're a big fan of Dan Norris and WP Curve, and it's going on to another chapter, which is even more exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And he's still got a couple of other businesses on the go anyway. So Black Hops Brewing being one of them. Okay, good stuff. So another fabulous episode. So next week will be our
Christmas episode.
I was thinking that might be the case.
Prepare yourself for that. So we'll need sleigh bell music, and I thought we were doing Client Challenge of the Week, our review of 2016 in arrears, and then in the one for New Year we could do our hopes and dreams for 2017.
Marvellous. I'll look forward to that then.
All right, babe. See you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.